Hello, this is a quick run through the answers to the factual test on the Caprivi's new course. First of all, the deep learning questions on previous topics. Kaiser Wilhelm I, of course, boasted that he had never read the German constitution. Prussia had 17 seats in the Bundesrat. The number of cartels in Germany by 1905 was 366, an increase from 90 in 1885. The historian who argued strongly for the interpretation of the Kaiser's personal role was John Roll. He, of course, is the leader of the intentionalist school of thought. The proportion of Germans who were Catholics was 40%. The German industry that witnessed a ninefold increase in the 25 years before World War I was steel. Potash and potassium salts massively increased German production of fertilizers. Okay, moving on to the new questions then. These are all now Caprivi focused. The name of the policy whereby domestic industry is protected, there's the clue, from cheap imports by taxes being levied on goods entering the country is, of course, protectionism. Trade taxes, these taxes that are charged to goods coming into the country are called tariffs. Notice the spelling, 1R, 2 Fs. As well as being Chancellor, the other job that Caprivi had was an army general. I did accept Minister President of Prussia. One or two people mentioned that. And in a generous mood, I would have accepted a landowner, a Prussian farmer, something like that. I suppose that is a job. But the key thing I was looking for there was army general. Number 11. Caprivi wanted to lower the trade taxes, to lower them, to effectively kill socialism with kindness by lowering taxes would make the imports cheaper. Number 12, the social group that wanted to maintain trade taxes at a high level, who disagreed with Caprivi, were of course the Junkers, even though Caprivi himself was of course a Junker. It put him at loggerheads with his own social group. Number 13, the political party that of course represented the Junkers was the German Conservative Party, so they opposed Caprivi's trade policy, and of course Caprivi's overall policy of killing socialism with kindness was the new course. Number 15, the political party that supported Caprivi's trade policy because it effectively led to lower food prices, which benefited consumers, and obviously they're thinking of the workers, the Social Democratic Party. Number 16, the other influential group that was close to the Kaiser, who also opposed Caprivi. Their reason was specific because Caprivi wanted to cut the military budget. Again, effectively would rather spend the budget on social welfare measures to kill socialism with kindness. The army officers, of course, disagreed with that. They were the answer is the army officers. Number 17. The price of one type of grain that was halved in 1894 was, of course, rye. The reason that Caprivi wanted to cut the military budget was to pay for an improved social welfare system that in turn would win support from the SPD in the Reichstag. Okay, so two sort of sub-points within that to get the full mark. Number 19, the popular law that Caprivi passed, it prohibited work on Sunday, and that was passed in the year 1891. And another popular law, number 21 here, prohibited the employment of children under the age of 13. Number 22, Caprivi set up courts to arbitrate industrial disputes. Arbitrate basically means to bring the workers the working classes, together with the employers, with the factory owners, etc., the businessmen, sit around the table, and effectively the court would arbitrate between them. It would effectively bring them together, get them to talk to each other, to reach an agreement without conflict. What I was looking for there was the industrial courts. Some of you just mentioned courts, which strictly speaking is not true. It was the arbitration in industrial disputes. Number 23, Caprivi wanted to change conscription from 3 years to 2 years. The answer is conscription. Number 24, in spite of that, Caprivi still wanted to increase the size of the army. In 1892, the army bill increased it to 84,000. Number 25, Caprivi was also popular with the old German conservatives because he wanted to reform education. The language he wanted to use in Posen and West Prussia was Polish. The clue, well, really, again, you should know that Posen and West Prussia, more commonly, it would later become the Polish Corridor after World War One, when with the Treaty of Versailles. But Posen and West Prussia were the the eastern part of Germany that was largely populated with Polish people. Number 26, the pressure group that the Prussian Junkers formed in 1893 to divert peasant attention away from socialism towards nationalism was the Agrarian League. One or two of you put some of the other leagues, like the Army League and the Pan-German League. The clue is 1893, and the emphasis on diverting peasants away. That's why it's the Agrarian League. 27, the pressure group that what did this pressure group? The Agrarian League denounced Caprivi as being a socialist. Question 28. 250,000 Germans belonged to the Agrarian League by 1900. That's 250,000. Gives you a good idea of how popular they were. In 1897, the SPD secured 35 seats in the Reichstag. What did this increase to in the elections of 1893? That's 44 seats. Question 30. What did the Kaiser instruct Caprivi to put before the Reichstag, which was the final straw that caused Caprivi to resign? That was anti-socialist laws. Question 31. Which prince working behind the scenes was influential? That's Prince Eulenburg. The fact in question 32 is a useful one. If you're arguing the popularist cause, that socialist was on the march across other countries, it wasn't just a German phenomenon. A very good example was the year that Caprivi fell in 1894. The French president was assassinated by an Italian socialist, and the French president was called President Carnot. So socialism was not just a German phenomenon, and fear of socialism was not just a German phenomenon. Question 33. How many socialist deputies were elected to the French Parliament in 1893? So again, at the same time as Caprivi, socialism was on the march in France. 40. Question 34. Germany's population had increased from 56.7 million in 1901 to 67.7 million by 1914. Question 35. The Chancellor from 1894 to 1900 was Prince Hohenlohe. Question 36. The Foreign Minister during Hohenlohe's chancellorship was Bülow, who of course became Chancellor in 1900 himself. The Navy Secretary at that time was von Tirpitz. The Prussian Finance Minister was von Michel, and the political party that von Michel led in the Reichstag was the National Liberals. And the Tsar industrialist, who was a fierce opponent of socialism, and therefore a fierce opponent of Caprivi, was William's favourite New Conservative was Baron von Sturm-Hallberg. Okay, that's the answer to those. If you didn't do well, if you lost any marks, retest yourself until you get 40 out of 40 and keep revisiting these factual tests so that these questions in turn are embedded deeply. Remember, some of them will reappear in later factual tests, and the rule of thumb is every factual test I will include 2 questions from a previous factual test. I hope that was useful to you. Thank you.